This is The Gorge. It's a podcast where my friend Sarah and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a topic.
The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegorge, where if you help us reach $200 a month, we can finally start That's Hell You're Walking Into, a podcast where oh no, I've had a few drinks. I can't think of a good one. A podcast where I just force Ben to learn Fate. It's not a fancy one this time, but it's the truth, and the truth will set you free. And in this case, the truth is that I just really want to do a podcast where I scream about Fate lore once a month, because I already do it all the time on Discord. So if you want to be a part of that wonderful...
If you want to be complicit in that...
Yeah, exactly. Then you can go to patreon.com/thegorge and kick in, and we would really appreciate it. Thanks.
So, Sarah, instead of Fate, what are we talking about tonight?
Tonight, we're talking about, we were supposed to talk about Ghost of Tsushima, and then I kind of got into a mood where I was like, I don't really want to play video games right now, because sometimes that happens, you know? But I felt bad, because Ben enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima a lot. And I was like, man, I know Ben really wants to talk about this game, because I know he really likes it. And I was like, how can I make it up to him? How can I, Benjamin's best friend, make it up to him for letting him down in this way? And I was like, oh, that's right. Ben really wants me to watch and talk about this other thing he super, super likes. So that's why we're talking about Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles tonight.
Yay!
Yay! Because it's really good.
It's really fucking good.
It's really fucking... I was like, I won't lie to you. Now that we're on the air, I won't lie to you. You know, when I agreed to, I was like, I'll watch TMNT. I was like, I can watch TMNT. Like, it'll be fine. You know, like, I wasn't expecting it to rock my world. I was just like, yeah, this will be fine. It'll have some good fight scenes. I was wrong. It rocked my world.
You were super wrong.
I was extremely wrong, and I'm super happy to have been this wrong. Rise of TMNT kicks ass so hard. It extremely sucks that it's so short. By the time I was done with it, I binged the first season on Sunday. Like, I watched the whole thing on Sunday, all 26 episodes or however much it is, and I was like, man, this is really good. Like, really, really good. I was like, I will do other things on Sunday. I will watch this cartoon, but I can also, because it's in English, it's not an anime, I was like, I can do other things. I can clean my house, I can kind of multitask while it plays in the background, I can keep an eye on it. I did none of those things. I just sat around and watched TMNT because I was so just enraptured. It is incredibly good.
It is without a doubt. So I don't know how familiar you are with the Turtles.
As a disclaimer, almost not at all. When I was, how old was I? It was 2007. So I was still a teenager. I snuck into the 2007 TMNT movie with my other best friend at the time. This was before I knew you.
A long time ago.
I know. I snuck into it as a double feature. Actually, it was a triple feature because my best friends at the time and I also went to see Grindhouse that night.
Ooh.
You know the Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez joint?
Mm-hmm. That's where it's two movies in one?
Yeah, it's a double feature. So we saw that, and then after we were done with it, we were like, nobody was paying attention to us, and TMNT was starting, and we're like, let's go watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too. Why not? We did. I enjoyed it. I don't remember a lot about it. But other than that, and of course, like vague 90s childhood memories of like the old cartoons. Yeah. Other than that, I have no exposure to the Turtles.
And just like cultural osmosis, like there's that famous picture where it's the 4 pie charts of relative notability as Renaissance artist versus Ninja Turtle.
That's exactly. Yeah, of course. And like I've seen clips of the 90s live action movie or the 80s live action movies.
I think 91 and 93.
Oh, okay. So very early in the 90s. I've seen clips of them. I've never actually seen any of those movies to completion. And I played like the old beat 'em ups when I was a kid. But again, none of this is like any real meaningful knowledge.
Like dedication to it.
Yeah. So this is my first like big hardcore TMNT series.
When I was very young, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were my entire life.
Okay.
The 80s cartoon was my entire jam. I had action figures. I had little stuffed dolls. I was known. I don't remember this a lot, but there's pictures of it and stuff, and I remember having it. I would carry around, those like Garfield suction cup things?
Yeah.
Well, I had one that was Donatello. And the suction cups fell off, so it was just a stuffed animal, really.
Yeah.
But it was Donatello, and I would carry that around everywhere.
Oh, that's cute. My little brother did that with the Red Ranger, so I get that.
I wish I could find these. I doubt they're still being made, and they probably cost like $100 million to find one.
Sure.
I had toys, obviously, but the ones that stood out was I had these versions where they had these big like hockey puck shaped shells, and the gimmick was you would feed these little red ribbons through it, and it would say a line.
Oh.
And obviously the red ribbons were little strips of paper, and those were destroyed immediately.
Of course.
But they still served as just general action figures.
Yeah, of
with
course.
Really big, bulky shells.
Huh. Okay. That's so interesting. Yeah. No. I had no. Literally, like I said, very little to no genuine exposure to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a franchise. So it was really funny to come into this, and I hate Twitter and I hate nerds. Despite myself technically, I suppose, being classified as one, I hate nerds. Do never ever call me a nerd to my face, because nerds on Twitter are the worst people in the world. Every time I see a Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing on Twitter, it's like people complaining about the weapons and all the changes they've made, and I'm sitting here like, this kicks ass. What's wrong with you people? And
it is funny because the exact thing all of the Rot TMNT fans thought was going to happen ended up happening, which was it's the same thing that happened with Transformers Animated.
Okay.
Which, if you remember that one, which was the other modern cartoon based on an 80s franchise that did a lot of changing to the dynamics and the core concepts of the characters.
Sure.
And had all new designs for everyone.
Right.
And it was, boo, this thing that is different than what I remember when I was 4. How dare you change the things? Oh, wait, the show ended? What? No, it was a phenomenon. How dare they cancel the show in its prime? No, how could this happen? What do you mean it's gone?
You nerds, this is your fault. I now have to live in hell until the Netflix movie comes out. And God willing, we get something out of Netflix, because now I have to deal with all these dorks who ruined a really great cartoon just because fucking Raphael doesn't have Psy and instead dual wields 2 identical weapons that function in basically the same way. To me, it's such a sticking point. It's such a stupid sticking point. But for me, that is the most annoying thing. It's when you break it down onto paper, they are basically the same weapons. It's just they look slightly different.
It's the thing where, functionally, and in terms of writing a cartoon for children, they're the same. So Raph is dual wielding a thing, right? That is held in the hands and is generally kind of held in a strange way, the way Psy are supposed to be held between your fingers. He's dual wielding weapons, right? Except they're more oriented toward a brawler character. Yeah.
Leo has 1 sword, not 2 swords, but it's still a sword. Donnie has a weapon on a chain.
Mikey has a weapon on a chain.
ghosts, right? Sorry. I always, like, in my head, for some reason, I always get them mixed up, and I don't know why. You'd think it would be Leo and Donnie instead, because they're, like, the same age in the show. But Mikey has a weapon on chain, and then Donnie still has his fucking bow staff. What's the problem?
It's like in terms of writing a story, because if you think about it, it's the same problem, and I wonder if there's got to be like a trope name for this, but it's the same phenomenon that has plagued Leonardo and Wolverine for decades.
Right.
Which is, you have characters whose entire gimmick is that they have bladed weapons, right?
Right.
And it's an action show, right?
Mm-hmm.
For kids. They can never actually cut anything.
Yeah, they can't, unless it's like a robot, you know?
Unless it's a robot.
It's the Samurai Jack problem.
Yeah, it's this thing where you functionally can't have them, like, actually fight with those tools because it would be too violent.
Yeah, it's so, you would be causing too much damage, and it's like, no, this is still a show for children.
So what do? You either have them just kick everything,
right?
Or you do what Rise does, which is give Leonardo portal powers so that he can still, like, really actively participate.
Yeah, they gave him the Yamato.
Yeah, it's literally, it's Leonardo in this show is just Dante with Virgil's powers.
That's it. That's literally it. Like
he's the same. Okay, you remember the bit in the Battle for the Battle Nexus New York where he goes full Bugs Bunny on the crab guy?
Yes.
That's just Dante.
That's just a Dante move. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
That's just what Dante does in front of every boss.
Yeah,
it's literally wahoo bing bing boo pizza does 3 backflips.
And then the enemies are all like, blah, foolish human, or in this case, foolish turtle. It's the same thing. Like, and yeah, the portal sword owns. How do you not think the portal sword is cool? Are you dead inside? What's wrong with you? Portal weapons are dope. We all played Portal. We know. They even do when when Leo gets the portal sword, they do a portal joke where, like, he falls infinitely.
Yeah.
You know? Like, in the first episode, that's a portal joke. You know? Jeez.
It's great. This show is also just full of references that no kid will ever get.
Ever get. The one I pointed out, the one that, like, immediately sticks out in my head the hardest, and is probably the most, like, blatant, like, yes, we know the adults have noticed our influences, is when Big Mama does the Satsuki Kiryuin heel click.
Yes!
It's like, oh, you guys aren't even trying to hide it anymore.
I remember telling you about this when I first, like, started watching this, but there's the bit in the harbor fight at the end of season 1.
Yes.
Where Raph uses his power smash jutsu and his arm, like, bulks up. Mm-hmm. And it bulks up exactly the way, like, a weapon or anything or a drill would expand in a Trigger or Gainax show. Like,
no, the Trigger influence, like, very specifically. It's like, there's a lot of anime callbacks in this show, just in general, that anybody who's kind of familiar with anime will notice. But, like, very, very specifically Kill la Kill and Triggers, and to a lesser degree, like, well, not to a lesser degree, basically to an equal degree, is Gainax, but very specifically Gurren Lagann.
Oh yeah, like, definitely.
The drill joke.
Yes.
Is the recurring drill joke is 100% the result of Gurren influence.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Even like the mecha designs and stuff that do show up in the show occasionally, have that same kind of heavy arm, like, you know how the Gurren is shaped, where it's like the body is kind of lithe, but then, like, it fattens out into very stompy, like, hands and feet, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even, like, all of the mecha designs that do show up in this show, whenever they show up, is like, oh, yeah, it's really obvious who you're drawing influence from.
You know, there's a thing where it's like you can kind of tell the anime influences when we talk about the very blatant references in like Steven Universe or something like that.
To Utena.
Right?
Yeah,
all
to Utena.
To End of Evangelion in that one episode.
Yep. Yep.
Stuff like that. Like, I think this is the first time I have seen like blatant Trigger Gainax references in a cartoon.
We are finally at the point where, hold on, I'm going to do a quick Google.
2007. Gurren Lagann was 2007.
Not Gurren. 2013 is Kill la Kill. Yeah, sorry, welcome to hell. It's been 7 years since Kill la Kill.
Oh my god, I would have said like 2016. That's ridiculous.
No, sorry, buddy. 2013. We are now at the point where Kill la Kill can be a massive influence on modern culture. Because, like, at this point, like, the people who watch Kill la Kill in college are now, like, of the age where they are out of college and in the animation working world and are able to just hardcore draw reference from it. And it's I mean, a lot of it, and it's very funny because Kill la Kill in itself wore its Western influence on its sleeve really hardcore too. When you go back and watch it, the way it uses like limited animation for comedy moments, the way that like really specifically it's a comedy moment that gets used in TMNT, but it also got used in Kill la Kill is the joke of just moving the frame. It's like a still character being moved. The bit in the library episode of Rise is what I'm thinking of.
Where every single time a character gets carried off, it's just a single frame of them.
It's just a single unmoving frame of them. Yeah.
The bats are just lifting up like a cardboard cutout of them and carrying it off.
And that's a really that's a joke that Panty and Stocking used a lot. And it's a joke that also the Panty and Stocking motifs in this are extremely obvious. But it's a joke that Panty and Stocking and Kill la Kill both use a lot, and it's like, oh yeah, okay. You just kind of see this recurring cycle of Western animation influencing Japanese animation, and then it comes back around, and we know that Rise has a pretty big Japanese fan base, for obvious reasons. Because it's like, you're wearing your Japanese influence on your sleeve, and so it's like it'll just keep going.
And this isn't anything new to TMNT.
No.
Like back in the whole premise of the old Dark Horse comic is highly influenced by Japanese anime and film and blah blah. They're ninjas. Yeah,
they're ninjas, and like it really uses that ninja influence. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. And it's just cool to kind of see it come back around in this and be so obvious. Like it's so obvious but so fun.
I didn't watch this one, but I know the 2003 cartoon from 4Kids has Raphael do an Akira bike slide in the opening theme.
Oh yeah.
That's
right.
It's everywhere.
It's
all over. But it's cool that we can specifically pinpoint the studio this time. It's not just the references that like everyone kind of knows, or like the general influence that you would expect from like, oh yeah, this is kind of an anime-esque art style to it. Like this is very blatantly Trigger, Gainax, Kill la Kill, Gurren Lagann, Panty and Stocking influence.
Yeah. It's definitely the most obvious. I mean, they do fucking Ano explosions. They do the cross explosions.
Yes!
When in doubt, Ano it out. Like, it's super obvious. And I mean, tons of studios are influenced by Gainax, but like, between the color palette and the splash cut-ins, and just the general, like, fluidity and expressiveness of very specifically the fight scenes, it's like, oh yeah, everybody can see what you're doing. There are parts in Rise that I was just like, oh, that's just a kill thing, and not even like a specific. I couldn't even tell you like a specific 1-to-1 thing, but just like it's so obvious the vibe of extremely over the top action to kind of almost act as like, one is like a comedy thing, but two as a world building thing, and a tone setting piece. I guess one good example is from the finale, and I was texting you about it because it was just so fucking raw, is the bit where Splinter does the Hawkeye save on Draxum.
Yeah.
And he narrowly avoids getting hit by Shredder, and the whole block explodes and it knocks all the color out. And it's like, that is, I think it's like episode, I always remember Kill la Kill being shorter than it actually is. It's actually a really long series. It's the part where Satsuki and Ryuko are fighting on the tower, like basically the Tokyo Tower kind of equivalent. And there's such the scale of destruction is so extreme that it sets the tone for like what is happening. Like really has a good expressiveness of the power being thrown around. That like that in particular is such a like you drew that reference really hardcore from Kill la Kill and Trigger in general. I love it. Fuck, it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so cool. It's raw.
It even has the best Kill la Kill reference ever, which is the fact that just like how Kill la Kill had a final boss fight in episode 3, Rise has a final boss fight in the first episode.
Yeah, exactly.
It immediately sets the tone from episode 1 when you get to the very first fight with Draxum's mutant in the pit.
Yep. It's just like, oh, cool. Okay. We're just gonna go in on... I mean, to me, that is what sucks about it getting canned. And what really sets it apart is that it's like... I know you're watching Are you watching 2012 right now?
Yes.
Did you start it? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you had started it yet or not.
Yeah, I'm about through the first season.
It's like, I'm sure it's fine, but Western animation until very recently was not willing and able to go super hard on its fight scenes.
Not since Avatar.
Yeah.
Has there been a show and... Okay, and I am biased. I do think Transformers Prime had some good fight scenes that I told you about. But, like, in general, no. You aren't getting the kind of quality action.
Yeah. Or I guess, not even... I mean, yeah, the action itself is extremely high quality, but it's the volume of it. And the fact that basically every episode has at least one really entertaining action set piece.
Mm-hmm. Even the most mundane episodes will have a segment that is just like, that would be like a highlight in another cartoon.
In any other series, even Steven Universe, which I love, part of it is that action is extremely hard to do.
Yeah.
Action requires a lot of choreography and tons of drawing, and it takes a really long time to do good action. Unless you just have a team that knows how to do it, which clearly is what is happening with Rise. So even like Steven Universe and stuff has the occasional really cool fight, but it's not every episode because it's hard.
Like,
and so those fight scenes that they do have are like really stand out, you know? It's like, no, Rise has them every episode.
Yeah, Rise will make a big dramatic chase. Rise has such good chase scenes too.
Oh, it has the best chase scenes. Oh, man. It has such good ones. You
get an amazing chase scene really early on in the episode where Splinter gets sick. And he's chasing after the boys.
Yeah. The comedy writing is really strong. I have a complaint about the comedy writing that I mentioned to you. We'll get into that in just a second. But just in general, like, this ability to go, like, really hardcore with action scenes is pretty new for American animation. I mean, I've been watching cartoons since I was a kid, and, like, people have this kind of nostalgia for old cartoons that I get. I understand. But, like, even, like, all of the old cartoons were just like, how do we make these as cheaply as possible? Because they're toy commercials.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just like this is the first, this is kind of the beginning, like, this period in, like, American animation is the first time it's like, no, we actually have the money and ability and time, mostly, to actually do some pretty cool action set pieces. And then Rise went, yeah, but what if we did it every episode?
Yeah, what if we just went all out?
We just did it every single time. And it kicks ass. Like, I just keep going back to that.
I'm thinking about, like, what other shows kind of stand up to this, and, like, the ones that come to mind immediately are Gennady Tartakovsky stuff, Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack, stuff like that. But, like, beyond that and beyond Avatar, like, you don't get not just, like, this level of action, because there were action cartoons, but you don't get this level of energy.
Yeah, and this degree of choreography and of understanding of like action scenes and you know, frenetic fight scenes, and understanding that, like, the pacing and the back and forth is the most important part. And it's like what is standard for TMNT is like a standout for, I mean, a big one that just happened in American animation is the dance/fight in Amphibia that a lot of people were losing their minds about. And I mean, it was really good. I mean, because it's a different kind of fight than what we get in Rise. But normally, Amphibia is more of like a slice of life story that occasionally includes big action set pieces. There's the Owl Witch lady. I don't know any of these characters' names.
I think you're talking about Owl House, not Amphibia.
Am I thinking of Owl House? I am thinking of Owl House. See,
I get them mixed up too.
They have extremely similar art styles, no offense.
And yes,
Disney cartoons kind of have like a similar look.
And I do plan on watching Amphibia. I hear it's really, really good. But
I've heard Owl House and Amphibia are both really good, and I still haven't seen all of Gravity Falls.
But yeah, like that kind of stuff is just the default in Rise.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, that to me was the thing that just really, it was like, okay, this show's pretty good. And then every episode was just like, no, here's another one. Here's another one. Are you full yet? Have you eaten your fill? Do you want more fight scenes? I'm like, yes, please.
Yes, I always want more fights. And I wrote this in my notes, and one of the things that really stands out to me is how environmental the fight scenes are.
Yeah.
They do a really good job of utilizing their surroundings. Even little moments. The one that really stands out to me is when I first kind of like started noticing it and then like started paying attention. Was when April was fighting the Girl Scouts.
Yes.
And she defeats the final one by throwing the lunch tray and tripping her up with that. And it's the kind of shot you don't normally see in action shows like this.
Where it's like an awareness of the set that the action is set in. Yeah,
or the bit where Splinter is fighting all four of them in the subway in the train station, and he flips over the bench and then kicks it up into Raph's face.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, because it's a very obvious, like we were talking about references that Rise draws from, and it's like, okay, well, there's the very obvious Gynax and Trigger references, but the other big one is, of course, like, I mean, obviously, it's Hong Kong action movies. Yeah. It's Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, and I mean, the show is based around the fact of what if Splinter was Bruce Lee?
Yeah,
in a previous life.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, that's what the whole show is basically, like, the linchpin of it. And so you have, I love the ladders and fish factory joke.
Yes.
Because when I was a kid, I was a huge Jackie Chan fan. I've seen, like, a ton of Jackie Chan movies. Like, Drunken Master is one of my favorite movies ever. And it was just instantly like, oh my god, yeah, fish and ladder factory, totally.
It adds that level of franticness to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see them not as just like trained martial artists. They're improvising. They're taking advantage of what's around them. They're fighting dirty, you know?
Yeah.
And it's great.
It sells this idea that eventually we come around to at the end of the first season with the whole train set piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you get this idea of like, well, they're working as like proper ninja and using like actual ninja training and stuff, and it's like, yeah, it's working for them, but it's not them at their peak. And so you have this whole established from like the entire season behind you going like, yeah, no, the turtles are at their best when they're allowed to fight dirty and use their environment and, you know, throw chairs and fight with ladders. And when you kind of take that away from them, you lose a little bit of that magic, and it's like extremely simple organic storytelling of like, you see them like, this is what they do their best, and when you take that away from them, they're kind of off their game and they don't really know what they're doing, and it's storytelling 101. But
yeah,
it's just good to see it done well, you know?
Mm-hmm. Like, I have so much to say, but I want to get to your point first about the humor.
Let's get to it.
Yeah.
If I have a single complaint about this show, and it never really stopped until the last 2 episodes where they were like, shit, oh fuck, let's just throw all the heartfelt shit in. You're like, we're out of time, just chuck it all in. It is that if I have it's not like a game-breaking complaint, but the more I think about it, the more annoyed I get by it. It's that Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles refuses to let its like heartfelt moments breathe. It has a very big, well, that happened energy from Marvel movies that I hate. I hate it. It's like the one thing that was really grinding my gears the whole show was every time I was like, oh, that was sweet, they're like, all right, well, we had 2 seconds of emotional resonance, we gotta break it up with a joke, and it's like, yo, it's cool, slow down. Every time they did that, those jokes sucked anyways. Like, anytime, I know your big example is the fight inside of the turtle tank during the Demolition Derby episode. And it's like, this is great. I wish Mikey would shut up. You know? Like, you don't need to constantly break up your emotional moments with jokes. It for all of, like, the confidence that the action is written with, it kind of betrays a sense of not being confident in your emotional writing. Every time you're like, well, that was a thing, let's break it up and make sure nobody ever feels too, like, warm and squishy inside. We have to have somebody making a jokey joke. And it's like, it's cool.
Yeah, you can let it hang, it's fine. You
can let it hang. You can just kind of have, like, an emotional moment and then cut to whatever plot beat follows next. You don't need to have like emotional moment, joke, plot beat, you know. And even like right up until the end, it was still doing that. I was like, man, like in the last episode, God bless them, they only had 6 weeks to make the last 2 episodes. So I get why it moves at such a breakneck speed, and so like we don't count the last 2 episodes in this discussion, because it's like, well, no, they have to fit everything.
Yeah, they have to fit what they thought were 13 more episodes into 4.
Into 44 minutes. That's not even a feature length movie, you know? Like, this, even if, God, fuck, it sucks so much. It's like, if they had 1 extra episode instead of 2, then I think some of those like emotional moments would have been able to breathe a little bit better in the finale. but that's just Nickelodeon fucking them over.
Yeah.
You know? But it's kind of what makes Steven Universe and Avatar and stuff like that still stand out a little bit further, is that those shows just kind of wear their emotions on their sleeve. Like, they have the same target audience as Rise, and instead they're just totally willing to roll with it. They're like, yep, this is a sad scene, we're not going to break it up with jokey jokes, because kids, I'm going to let you in on a secret, kids love sad shit. Like, 13 to 16-year-old kids love angsty shit, because they are in a kind of shitty, angsty portion of their life. Like, they love it. They eat that shit up. That's why Steven Universe is so popular with teenagers. Is because it's like, oh, usually you feel patronized too. Like, American media has a very bad tendency to kind of patronize to younger audiences. And not really acknowledge that small children feel sad feelings. And anytime a show does that, it's like, oh, hey, I'm not stupid. I like stuff like this. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of refuses to do that. Every now and then it lets itself do that, but then they always make sure to break it up with a joke.
It does it a lot more there's a lot more willingness to let moments slide when they are more heartwarming, family-oriented moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
The sad parts don't really get that level of shine.
Yeah.
But they definitely, I guess they kind of, like, that's kind of the tone they're going for. The writers and stuff have gone on record saying, like, they want this to be way more family focused than other versions of the Turtles have been. And you definitely feel that with this.
Sure, yeah, it's definitely more oriented around the idea of found family and stuff like that.
But yeah, it is a shame that, like, because a lot of those moments, like at the Turtle Tank one, are so good isolated.
Yeah.
But then the scenes that follow after them kind of undercut it a bit, and it's just annoying.
Yeah, it's frustrating because, like I said, it just kind of suggests the writers didn't feel confident in the emotional writing they were doing. They were more comfortable with humor and action and, like, heartwarming brotherly moments. And trust me, I love the heartwarming brotherly moments in this show. They were the best. But it's like, I wish they had, and I mean, like, the stuff that they do when you get it, it's, like, good. I'm not saying it's bad. I think the conversation with Splinter and Donnie in the tank is great. So it's not like they're doing bad work. It's just they don't feel confident in the work they are doing.
They don't let it breathe. They don't give it the space that it needs before rolling into the rest of the episode.
Right, yeah. And it's like, you could see a cut version of the Donnie and Splinter argument that just takes out of all of, like, Mikey's jokes. And would probably be stronger for it. And then it would just go from, like, okay, well, we've had our argument, and oh shit, there's stuff going on outside. Now we can get back to the action set piece of the episode.
Yes.
Instead of having it constantly be intercut with Marvel Studios. Well, that happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it does not diminish the show, really, but it is definitely an annoying thing, especially knowing what I know. I don't know a lot about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I do know that the source material is definitely more of your standard angsty teenager story. And the 2007 movie leans into it super hard if you've never seen it.
Yeah, it's definitely the old Dark Horse comics or Mirage comics are definitely more heavy. I haven't read much of them. I've only read, like, the first handful of issues, but yeah, it is definitely a lot more gritty, serious noir stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that, like, Rise needs to go that hard,
but it's in the show's DNA.
Sure, yeah, and it's definitely, like,
it's
when you come out and you kind of are aiming for the same audience as Avatar and Steven Universe, you should probably look at your contemporaries and see how they're handling things as well.
It's that thing where, like, this wouldn't be a problem in another cartoon, but because everything else Rise does is so good, that this one thing sticks out.
It does. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It's like, it's a little niggling thing, and I want to just kind of get it out there, because otherwise, I love this show.
It still hits, and it still made me cry a bunch of times.
Oh god, I boo-hooed I basically cried through the entire last 2 episodes, and maybe that was slightly because it was ending, and I was just like, oh no, it's not enough! But it was also that I have imprinted extremely hard on these turtles.
Mm-hmm. I think
Raphael TMNT is my big dumb boy.
I think the family thing is probably, like, the most interesting part of this series to me, because, like I said, like, I've watched the old 80s cartoon, and I'm watching 2012 right now. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy, especially watching the old cartoon, it's very easy to forget that they are, in fact, brothers.
Right, yeah.
And they're not just, like, a team, you know?
Right.
It's so, like, when I'm watching the 2012, I can't help but compare it to Rise, because Rise is just so strong in my mind. Mm-hmm. That, like, the emphasis on, like I told you, the Insane in the Mama Train episode is a very good example of, by the way, great episode titles for this series.
Oh, stellar. Absolutely stand out. Wonderful.
What kid is going to get an Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind reference?
Nobody. No small child is going to get that, but I got it instantly. Yeah. I was like, oh, good. Yay, thanks.
But where they take their training seriously and they become, like, actual professional, like, shinobi, mm-hmm. and start calling Splinter Sensei, mm-hmm.
Instead
of Dad or Pops or Papa.
Papa.
That's one of my favorite lines in the entire series.
I know.
Oh, Papa! If you surrender now, there shan't be any consequences. God,
yeah,
Donnie's so good.
Donnie's so good.
But the whole 2012 series is like that. Splinter is very much more their sensei than their dad. Not that he doesn't love them as a father does, but he's much more strict with mm-hmm. them, much more disciplined, and they themselves are much more disciplined.
Right.
Compared to this. And the scene that stands out to me is there's a bit, it's the bit in Todd Scouts where Splinter's mad because they're using their phones to cheat at training.
Right.
And it's the way he argues with them, where he like fumbles about, like, oh, no one's taking your phones, they just stopped working.
Yeah.
But the way he's arguing them is a lot more like a like he's on their level, you know?
Mm-hmm. Like he understands phones and stuff.
Yeah, versus 2012 Splinter, who is a lot more strict and a lot more, just do what I say mm-hmm. kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting, and I really, really like it. I love this incarnation of Splinter. I didn't like him at first, but he immediately warmed up to me after a few episodes.
Okay, I take that back. If the series has one other misstep, it's that they probably should have gotten to the like texture between the boys and Splinter sooner. Like in watching it on Sunday, I was like, well, it took a couple episodes to get to like an episode between that was about like the kids and Splinter, you know? And I was like, oh, I wish they had gotten to this in like the second or third episode instead of whenever it happened. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. I watched all of this in 2 days.
It's a gradual thing. Just as you like learn more about mm-hmm. them, like there's not like this is the episode where you learn about Splinter's relationship with the boys.
Right. And I wish it had just been woven in a little bit more
mm-hmm. in
the first season. Because, like, toward the back end of the first season, it starts getting in there more, but I wish it had been woven into the front end of the season more. But, like, otherwise, no, I think this whole incarnation of Splinter being, like, their schlubby dad, who kind of sucks, I actually think it owns that. Because, like, for a couple episodes, I'm like, I think I hate this guy. I'm like, why won't you hug my boys? But like, I like that. It goes back to, and this is both funny and apt, considering the source material. It goes back to the whole plot point in DMC5, where I was like, no, I actually think it's extremely cool that Dante is kind of wrong in DMC5, like with the way he handles problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of cool that Splinter kind of sucks in the beginning of the show. That he's kind of a shitty dad who like doesn't know how to handle his shitty teenage sons. Like, that feels more real when you have once been a shitty teen stressing your dad out, you know?
You can draw a lot. You can draw a Venn diagram that compares the fathering skills of Goku and Splinter.
Yeah.
Where it's very easy to say that Splinter is a bad dad.
Right.
Until you see more of it and you realize that he's not like a lazy deadbeat. He's just far more relaxed than you're used to Splinter being.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, he is kind of trying to deal with 4 extremely energetic teenagers, and he's just a little rat man now. And, you know, they actually do kind of sell the idea that, like, yeah, this is probably hard and stressful, and you probably do just want to lay around and watch TV all the time instead of actually put up with your horrible children.
And it's not until, like, the last episode when you learn why he is that way.
Yeah.
Like, when you really get the full picture, it's that, yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense that he would neglect his duties as, you know, as training them, and just kind of want to be the cool dad, the cool, fun dad who jokes around with his kids, is because his whole life, his family was taken away from him.
Yeah, you know, and it's a kind of a resentment toward that whole way of coming up, and you're like, oh, man, that all totally tracks, and it's actually really good.
Yeah.
And it just sucks so much that the show ended prematurely.
I know.
It hangs over all of Rise just like a cloud of sadness. And it's like you can just see a hypothetical second season that was given its proper 26 episodes, and you really get a chance to kind of dig in deep, and you know, you could have like a whole 22-minute episode about Splinter's backstory, and you could really kind of get into the stuff with Karai, which poor Karai, basically, it shows up and then immediately dies.
And you can tell they had so much planned for her.
Oh, they did. You can just feel it. They had so many ideas, and you could just tell she was going to show up at, like, you know, maybe 5 or 6 episodes before the end of the second season. So it was like, oh, damn, this is like a twist. And then she shows up, and you get to really get to know her, and you can roll with the whole Gram joke, which was great.
Oh my god, that scene is amazing.
That whole scene is amazing, even though it's extremely short-lived. You kind of just get it. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, they're excited to have, like, an extended family, to have more than just their dad. It's like, oh, hey, we have a history, and we've got family, and you know, she likes them. She isn't repulsed by the fact that they're turtles or whatever. It's like, no, these are my weird green grandsons. My strange turtle boys. I love them. And it's like, you could just see that they wanted to do so much more. They just had no choice. They had to 6 weeks.
6 weeks to write 4 episodes, and apparently, like, it usually takes them, like, 6 weeks to do 2.
Yeah.
They had to wrap up their entire series in 6 weeks with half the time they normally have to write regular episodes.
Ugh. And those are regular, not big finale episodes that you want to pour all of your heart and budget and time into. And it's like, no, you have 6 weeks to try to get this wrapped up in a meaningful way. And I mean, I think they succeeded when you know that.
Yeah, they definitely did. Like, even, like, this finale still hits really, really hard, but there's so much rushing involved. And
God, it's horrible.
There's so many things that's like, there's some clear setup for all this, and then it doesn't, it pays off, but, like, you can tell they cut out a bunch of other setup initially. Foot Recruit is the best example of that.
oh, Fret Recruit is great. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
So that was interesting to me because I knew that you didn't really know much about turtles. Mm-hmm. And so when you're like, does Foot Recruit have a name? I was like, does she know who Casey Jones is?
I know who Casey Jones is.
If I say, oh yeah, it's Casey Jones, will she understand that? I don't know. Like, will she care? Like, oh yeah, he's this guy who wears a hockey mask, and the joke and the thing is that she's this version of him. Mm-hmm. But you don't really see her wear the hockey mask ever because they cut that out because they didn't have
any time.
No. And so I'm like, no, she doesn't have a name. She's just Foot Recruit.
And I was like, oh man, okay. I and dumbass that I am, I instantly just accepted it because I was like, well, the other two don't have names.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Okay, she doesn't have a name.
Thank God that Brute and Lieutenant don't have names because that worked out well for me.
It did. It worked out perfectly for you because I was just like, well, I mean, all right. And she doesn't have a name. Fine.
It's one of those things where like people thought she was going to be Casey because in the Brownie episode, her bakery is Grandma CJ.
Oh yeah.
So people were like,
"Oh my God,
is Foot Recruit Casey Jones?"
She is Casey Jones, Cassandra Jones.
Her spear turns into a hockey stick and she swats a rock like a puck. And that is unfortunately all you get.
It's all you get until the movie. Hopefully we'll have more Casey in the movie.
The interesting thing is that coming off of 2012, people thought Casey would be Karai. Because Karai in 2012 is a kunoichi who has very short hair and wears a half mask and is slavishly devoted to Shredder.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's what they thought when Foot Recruit first showed up. Was like, oh, this is going to be Karai.
Yeah, okay.
And then the real Karai showed up.
And I do like the whole, again, there's no time to develop it. Thanks, Nickelodeon. Eat me. All my homies hate Nickelodeon. But like the whole idea that like Shredder is technically like their great however many times removed grandfather was like, oh, that's neat. That's good. Yeah. I like that.
It's a really cool concept. And again, it ties into the whole theming of family.
Yeah. I actually think one of the best things in the finale that isn't like really a thing that occurs to you, but fits perfectly with this whole theme of like, that's not just family, but specifically like the family you choose versus the family you have, is that at no point is it ever an issue that the boys are not like Splinters by blood. I mean, technically, yes, they have his DNA to a degree, but like, it's not really like, and like April is considered a Hamato, but she doesn't have any of it, you know?
Yeah.
It's all about who you decide your family is, not necessarily like the family that's picked for you. And Karai, it's never made a big deal that like the boys aren't really Hamato. You know, they're not born from the Hamato line. They're a bunch of turtles who were mutated, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal. It's never treated as like a problem. It's just like, oh yeah, these are my strange green grandsons.
The emphasis on that is great, and I love the bit where Karai confirms that April has always been a Hamato.
Yeah, she's always been part of the family, baby. They love her. April's their best friend. Damn it, it does suck though. You just think about it. You're like, oh, we probably could have gotten like an April backstory episode. Like
we don't see how she met the boys in this series.
You have no idea how she met the boys, and it's like, oh, they probably had that like on the back burner. They're like, we'll use this in season 2.
It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, she's April. We know that she's part of the team. We don't need to do that part.
Yeah, it's like how you don't need to do Peter Parker's backstory anymore.
Yeah, you don't need to see Martha and Thomas get shot anymore. We know what happens.
Exactly.
We know what happens. It's fine. She's just, first episode is like, you're our best friend, April. Yes, I have always been the best friend of the turtles.
Tally-ho! And it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. You just accept it. But, I mean, yeah, they probably had an episode.
Do Do you ever realize that, like, in other incarnations, like the 80s show and 2003, that, like, because April's a reporter, she's probably in, like, her mid-20s.
And it's weird that she's hanging out with a bunch of nominal teenagers.
Yeah, who are, by and large, teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It's in the title.
Yeah. Like, you kind of forget. Those words become just, like, static in your brain because they're so ubiquitous now that you kind of forget that, yeah, they are actually supposed to be teenagers.
They are actually teenagers. It is really funny because at one point April just straight up says in this show that she's 16. And it's like, oh, all of the boys are really young then.
Yeah, like, I think... I think...
No, they're babies.
I think Raph is 16. I think Donnie and Leo are supposed to be 15, and Mikey's 14.
Because they mentioned that they were transformed 13 years ago.
Yeah.
But of course they could have been older when they were still just little box turtles. Adorable little blobby turtles.
My favorite
little babies.
It's one of my favorite, like, Splinter Dad moments ever is that when he's in the cage and he just picks up the random turtles and he's immediately concerned about telling them apart.
Yeah, it's great. And the thing is, and you told me this, it's like, you don't need to be worried about this.
Yeah.
This is the one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like, franchise where it's extremely easy to tell them all apart, even without their bandanas.
Yeah, like, you have no problem. They're different species in this one.
They are extremely, even like Donnie and Leo, who are kind of, I think the fandom kind of tends to call them the twins because they are the same age. And they do definitely have, like, the same kind of build. But even they, like, face features wise are, like, so different that you could take the scarves off and it's like, oh yeah, I could tell any one of you apart. It's really easy, actually. This show
is such a far a departure as you can get from the Mirage comics. Because in the Mirage comics, they all wore red bandanas and looked exactly the same. Literally, the only way to tell them apart was by what weapons they were holding.
Oh my god, no thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my god, no thank you. I'd probably go insane.
They all had... the comic itself was in black and white, too.
No!
So there was nothing doing.
Bad idea! Oh no. Yeah, no, it is weird to have them be so different. But I mean, like...
It works.
Again, it works. It's so much cooler. It's so much more fun.
2012 does it too, where Raph is obviously a bit more broad-shouldered and his head is a bit flatter and his eyes are more narrow. Yeah. Like, Donnie is a bit taller and skinnier and he's got a gap tooth because he's a nerd.
Sure.
But, like, the Rise, like, just makes it immediately clear, like, what everyone's role is. Like, it's...
Sure.
If you didn't know who the Turtles were and they just showed you a line above them, you couldn't tell, like, what their, quote-unquote role on the team was. You know? Without hearing the theme song, you don't know what they're good at.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's why, like, when you look at the Rise Turtles, it's like, oh yeah, it's super easy to tell, like, what all of them are, like, good at.
Yeah, and it's like... Now that this is over, I'm partially because the show was so fucking short. I'm like, should I go watch 2012? Just to kind of.
I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely enjoying it.
Sure.
It does not have nearly close to the amount of energy that Rise does. It doesn't have nearly as much of the brotherly love.
Right.
Man. I mean, maybe it gets better. Like, people say that 2012 has the heart of the franchise and Rise has the energy of the franchise.
Sure.
So maybe, like, in later seasons it gets better, but, like, season 1 is a lot... It's not bad, but it's very standard, I guess is the way to put it. Like, this is this version of Baxter Stockman. This is this version of the Krang.
Right.
Here's the villains showing up.
Okay, here's a question.
Yes.
Because I don't know anything about TMNT at all. Because you just said Baxter Stockman. I was like, oh wait, so Stockboy is like an actual recurring villain?
So as far as I can tell, like, I don't know every single villain. There have been so many goddamn villains in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's so many mutants. It's the whole gimmick is this guy is a pig man.
Right. I do know Meat Sweats is just a recurring TMNT villain.
Well,
I do know that.
He's
not called Meat. Yeah, he's not called Meat Sweats. He's called Bebop or whatever.
Yeah, Bebop and Rocksteady. I guess that's kind of close to that, but like as far as I can tell, it's just Shredder and Baxter Stockman were the recurring characters in Rise.
Okay, that's like, it. Okay.
Everyone else, as far as I can tell, is like a brand new villain. Even Baron Braxton is a brand new villain.
Yeah, I figured he kind of has like the vibe of like a new villain. And in the finale we see Krang. Mm-hmm. And I was texting you. I was like, oh, it's that thing! It's that thing! I don't know what it's called!
It's that famous political tweeter.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it's called, but I do know it. I had to Google it because I don't know anything about TMNT. I don't, and now I'm like, shit. I'm just gonna have to learn. I'm gonna have to watch more because it's just so short, man. Mm-hmm. It just went by so quickly. And
this could have gotten like 4 seasons. You know.
What 2012 has what 5 seasons?
5, yeah.
They could have had 5.
Yeah,
easily.
Nickelodeon, and apparently from what I've done like a little bit of reading into this, and like nothing confirmed, but like this is like the fandom like reacting to snippets of interviews and stuff like that, where it's whenever a new president or a new leader comes into Nickelodeon, their initial impulse is to clean slate everything but SpongeBob and Loud House, and get all the new stuff under them in.
Yeah.
And there was a change in leadership when Rise was, in production.
Right.
And it's not confirmed, but the tendency is to lean that, this got screwed over because the new guy in charge wanted his own show to be popular.
I mean, that happens with a lot of stuff, honestly. It happened at Disney. It's happened, like, at Disney movies before. And it's just like, man, it's so stupid. It could have been...
It was
you really could have marketed... It was sabotaged. It was 100%. It's just like what they did to Korra. Mm-hmm. No matter your opinions on Korra. I like Korra. Go fuck yourselves. But
I like season 1 of Korra.
I like seasons 1, 3, and 4.
And I like where it ended. I like how the series ended, but like...
It's fine. Look, season 2 is extremely bad. Nobody should watch it. You can just actually skip season 2 of Korra.
But there is no doubt that like its last season got completely sabotaged. And
absolutely
online.
Fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they tried to do it to the first run of Avatar. I wasn't there for when Avatar was airing, but I do know that there was a lot of, studio sabotage.
I remember they were like, oh yeah, here's the last 5 episodes in a marathon on a random day. Here they are. Go.
Yeah, there's no fanfare or anything. Yeah. Now back to the more SpongeBob reruns. It's the exact same thing as Teen Titans Go sabotaging Steven Universe.
Yeah. It's this is the thing that makes us the most money, gets us the most eyes. Mm-hmm. Everything else can go. You're getting in the way of SpongeBob.
But no, Ben, capitalism is the best system for innovation.
Yeah, totally. What? What do you mean? What? Remember that time SpongeBob and all of his family joined together to defeat a drill monster? What?
We could have had 5 whole seasons of that, you bastards. We could have had... God, fucking... And Shredder kicked so much ass in this show.
This is the best Shredder. I don't care what anyone says. This is the best Shredder.
Honestly, the fact that they made Shredder talk at the end of it is like a huge letdown for me.
In a way, it kind of is.
It kind of, and I get it. It was because they had no time and they had to be like, let's deliver exposition in any way we can. Oh my god, we have no time. But like... in a perfect world, Shredder would never speak.
The fight in the the loading, the docking bay.
Yep.
And the chase through the empty New York.
Yes.
Are just incredible.
Stunning.
Just the sheer amount of just power and terror that is just in this character.
The fact that they were smart and bold enough to use like fucking horror movie cut-ins for this Shredder. Like every time his name got brought up, they do these fucking 2-frame flashes of like a monster in the dark, and you're like, oh shit, this Shredder means business. And it's like, and then the fact that, you get this idea that he's just like a mindless monster. Mm-hmm. And it was like, no, this is cool. This is such a better incarnation, or it's such a smart twist on the idea of being like, yeah, it's the Shredder, because all he does is tear things apart. Like the name, like inherently the idea that your villain is named Shredder kind of sucks. Like speaking as somebody who's never really been like a TMNT fan, I'm like, that's a lame thing to call your villain because it's a dumb word. But in this case, they're like, no, it totally tracks. Like he's the Shredder because he tears everything apart. You go from Uncle Phil,
mm-hmm. In his big underground orb thing, cackling about turtles and tonight I dine on turtle soup and blah blah. Right. And it's fun and it's goofy and there's nothing wrong with that. And then 2003 he's like an alien invader. Mm-hmm. And then in 2012 he's just like he's this like Japanese Yakuza ninja type. Like he has an organization, and the first fight in 2012, like I've watched his first fight with the turtles and that, and it's still pretty good. It's not bad. Okay. He's definitely like, oh shit, it's Shredder, and he's kicking everyone's ass really easily.
Okay, that's cool. I'll take it.
But it doesn't add up to fucking him doing Akuma moves.
Yeah, that's totally what it is that he's just Akuma.
He does Akuma Super in the Battle Nexus New York episode where he just slides forward.
Oh god, and it's just so, in that episode there is the one of the best shots of the whole series, in a series jam-packed with just incredibly artful and well put together shots. I think one of the best in the whole series is one of the most simple, where it's Shredder standing in front of like the busted ass window in the hotel, and there's the wind and the cloak is flapping around, and you just see those eyes inside the shadows of the cloak, and you're like, oh god. And it's like, that is such a great, like, it's such a good moment, and it's so scary. And again, not to bring it up, but I think the fact that they punctuate it with a comedy moment 2 seconds later fucking sucks. Like, just own it. You wrote a scary ass. You wrote like the scariest kid's villain in a long time. Just own it. Like the last time I felt that kind of like, oh god, is when I saw White Diamond in Steven Universe, Mm-hmm. Like, it's that feeling of, like, this is the big bad, and they are on a completely different tier from the villains. It's like, just roll with it. You don't need to break it up with a comedy moment. Just be cool with the fact that you wrote a scary bad guy. And they didn't. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. But still.
But it's still so good.
It's still so really good. Those 2 seconds in a vacuum are incredible.
And I love that joke, actually. I love just the quick shot of Leo banging on Shredder's ankle with Mikey.
I mean, like, it's fine in like as a comedy, like looking at it. It's like, this is funny. But in the context of like everything else around it, it's like, no, that whole sequence could have just been like, oh fuck, and then after they hit the portal and jump through, that's when you do your comedy moments. You don't do your fucking, well, that happened in the middle of this, like, my sons, which is going to be my ringtone now. I'm just going to have my ringtone be my sons for the next 6 months while I try to process my grief over the show.
I need a supercut of every time Splinter says that.
Yeah, my sons are my boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, Shredder owns. Like I said, I am actually kind of disappointed that he talked. And I get it. They had no choice. They were out of time.
They did do another cool thing where I told you already that the ancestors in the first season finale, the leader of them is voiced by 2012 Splinter.
Yes.
And then obviously the three goons that are very obvious XPs of Leo, Donnie, and Mikey are voiced by their 2012 counterparts.
One of which is Rob Paulson, a.k.a. Yakko Warner.
Yeah, and he also voiced Raphael in the original cartoon, and he voices Foot Lieutenant in the new one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Rob Paulson is also, if you hadn't noticed in the credits, he's also the voice director for the show.
And that's why this show is so fucking voice acted.
The show is so good. The voice acting in this show is extremely good. It's because Rob Paulson is an incredible voice director, not just a good voice actor. Like, he's a really good director.
But Shredder is also voiced by 2012 Splinter.
Okay.
So that's how they brought that. They brought that full circle too. And God, he does have such a commanding voice, though.
He has a great voice, and it's not that like he had like a bad voice actor or that his voice wasn't like intimidating or anything like that. It's just
it doesn't have the same like influence or the same like tension.
Yeah.
When he's just this unstoppable, mindless beast.
Because you have that whole, like you said, tension of like, well, what is he gonna do? He's basically just like a horrible monster, kind of caged
Jason.
up. He's Jason. He's totally Jason. Oh my God,
he's
absolutely.
Jason Voorhees. He's, he's Michael Myers. He just walks towards you.
And you're scared of him. He just chews through everything standing in his way, and like that in and of itself is extremely intimidating and scary and well done. And you really just get this sense of him being like a hurricane. He's not like a living thing. He's a natural disaster, just waiting to like blow everything down. And it has such a good kind of scary tension around it.
It's that bit from World War Z. Where he's talking about how their normal army tactics don't work, because the ultimate goal of a combat situation is to get your enemy to retreat.
Yeah, of course.
To wear them down, to scare them off. But what do you do when you can't? When they don't sleep, when they don't stop moving,
right.
Even after you injure them. Like, how do you defeat that? And you can't.
You can't. You just have to mitigate it as best you can, and it's the same thing going on with Shredder, where it's like you can't manage something this out of control. And so, like, the cool thing of Shredder is, of course, every time he is allowed to go out of control, you're just like on the edge of your seat. And so to give him a voice and to give him a personality, however paper thin it was in the finale, it's like, oh man, okay. But I also get that, like, it was set up like that, probably because they did think they were going to get more seasons. And they're okay, well, at some point, Shredder has to become a person.
Yeah, Shredder has to become, like, because, the whole thing is they set it up immediately where it's like, wasn't Shredder supposed to be, like, this really cool samurai guy?
Yeah. He's supposed to be, like, cool and calm, but I like it. I like this idea that, like, he was locked at... he's basically had his consciousness spread across the world for, hundreds of years in little teeny tiny pieces. And it's like, oh, that drove him insane. Yeah, that tracks. So he's now just like a rampaging monster who wants to tear everything apart. And it's like, I don't know. If it was me, I'm not a writer. But I probably would have just found a way to, like, make another new villain and just have Shredder still be, like, this thing that's barely being restrained.
The Krang. That's what the Krang could have done, but
you're so right.
They probably were going to set something up like that, where the Krang are the ones who finally get control of Shredder.
Yeah,
and that would have been why Casey ends up leaving to become Casey Jones.
Yeah. Oh man, that's true. And then it's just like, even the Krang being like horrible meat demons now, I guess, having a hard time like restraining the Shredder. And so every now and then you just kind of have to let it go wild. And it's like, oh man, that's cool.
The Crying Titan is so fucking cool, though.
Oh, I know. There's so many cool set pieces. Hey, can we talk about how much I love the world building in this show?
Oh my god, the Hidden City is so cool.
It's so cool. It's such a cool twist on like knowing what little I know about TMNT, but like the whole deal is that TMNT is kind of like a sci-fi story. I mean, obviously it's basically just Daredevil. Yeah. Literally. It's because the ooze that, I mean, like literally in the comic books, the ooze that makes Daredevil into like a Batman, not like that, but like a sonar man, is the same ooze that transforms the turtles. Like, yeah. You know, that's the actual comic. I don't know a lot about comic books, but I do know that. And it's like, oh, so it's always been kind of like a sci-fi story. And so, I mean, Rise is about, like, hey, what if we took this whole premise of this entire franchise and flipped it on its ear and did new things with all these characters for once? And in doing that, they're like, hey, let's just have some fucking magic.
Yeah, let's make it all mystic and yokai and demons and ghosts and all that kind of stuff.
Let's lean in super hard to the fact that, you know, this franchise cribs from, like, Japanese mythology and, like, the concepts of Japanese warriors, like ninjas and samurai and stuff like that. And let's own up to the fact that we ourselves are massive weeaboos who are making our own anime with turtles. And let's just have these fucking things called yokai. You know? Like, let's just go with it. And I think it's really cool. I think the world design for the hidden city and, like, the concealed part of Big Mama's hotel is, what's the word? Raw. It's raw.
It's raw.
It's raw.
I wish we had seen more of those 3 council members that Draxum confronted. Not only because Titans. They were really, really cool.
Right.
But also because that was Optimus Prime, Megatron, and RC.
Wait, is like their voice actors?
That's Peter Cullen, Frank Welker, and Susan Blue.
Yeah! Run! Man, no, they were totally. I just looking when they were like the crying Titan, and I thought about the big heads, and I was like, oh, they're Titans. Okay.
Yeah, that statue. Like, I need an art book of this because I need to appreciate all of these amazing backgrounds.
Oh, the art is so good in this show. Just the design and the texture of it all. It's so colorful and lived in and well realized and
like. The whole thing about the Crying Titan is the way, like, it's posed, and the fact that there's a dead Krang inside of it.
Yeah.
Is the implication is that, like, it was the last man standing of whatever caused the humans and the yokai to divide.
Right.
And it's like, I need to see that and know what's going on. I need another season.
I need you to tell me that story. I need another season. Or I need the movie to be 2.5 hours long.
So what I really like about this, and this is kind of the thing that it didn't really click until when Shredder first awakens and he asks where all of his minions are, and Lieutenant just goes, so it's kind of just the 3 of us. And then you compare that to the scene where Karai comes back and she sees that the Hamato clan are just 4 turtles and a rat man. And I love this concept of this long-standing legacy, like this ancient mythical battle between 2 clans, and as time passes and things change, that it just gets to the point where the truth behind it gets lost, and it's just kind of being carried on both sides, being carried on in name only, and both sides were unprepared for what happens when the war comes a knocking on their door.
Yeah, absolutely. Neither of them. It's kind of funny, this idea that, like, neither side, other than Shredder himself, they're both kind of unserious about the whole situation. It's like, yeah, the Foot and the Hamato have been, like, at war for, like, 500 years or whatever, but, like, nobody's really taking it that seriously anymore. They're just kind of doing it because they have to.
The Foot, like, have educational YouTube videos where they do fun, like, gimmicks, and
they own a shoe store franchise.
Yeah.
You know, like...
And Splinter abandoned all that to become a movie star.
Yeah.
And he deliberately didn't train his sons in the ancient arts.
And it just isn't a big deal to either of them. And so, of course, when the big deal itself actually shows up and is like, hey, time to lay waste to everything.
You studied, right?
You studied, right? No. Sorry. We're super not ready. Nobody is ready. And it's really good. And it's like, man, again, if we had had just one more season, you could just... All my homies hate Nickelodeon.
If they had given these characters more time to, like, be in the roles that they were supposed to be in.
Yeah.
You know? Like Casey and Karai and Mayhem, who just kind of stopped appearing.
Who just kind of stopped being... I thought for sure, like, Mayhem was gonna, like, you know, help April, like, teleport around in the final boss fight, and then didn't.
He's not even in it. He stops showing up.
Yeah, I don't think he's really even in the second season.
Not really, no.
Like, at all.
Like, I remember seeing, because there's concept art of Mikey's painting for Gram, and Mayhem was in the storyboard version of it, but not in the final version.
Ah, okay, so they were just, I mean, obviously they show that the Titans, I call them Titans, the big heads were the ones who sent Mayhem to keep an eye on Draxum, and then, of course, it was like, oh, there's like a plot there, and then they're like, oh shit, never mind.
We don't have time to follow up on that. That one has to go away.
That one has to go away. The other one that has to go away is the other ninja, who shows up, who, like, you know the one I'm talking about, had the orange mask.
Yeah, Big Mama's lieutenant.
Yeah.
Yeah, who was, like, puts a lot of emphasis on that one, and then they don't get to do anything.
They don't do anything.
I saw, there was an Instagram post about, like, that character's model shot. Apparently they are a female character. They had plans for it, and she has turtle shells in her concept art.
Oh, okay. See?
So, you know...
Don't get to do anything with that.
Could have been cool to follow up on that and, you know, have an episode about it, but no. No, sorry. All my homies hate Nickelodeon. That's our episode. That's our title card. Yeah.
I don't know what your title card idea is, but it needs to be fuck Nickelodeon. All my homies hate Nickelodeon. It's just such a shame. It's like it just kind of hangs over the whole show because, like, the first season does such a good job of setting things up, and you really get the sense that they had plans for at least 3 seasons. You know. To hopefully have all of it kind of wrapped up, and then, you know, if they got renewed for more, they could take a plot point and kind of roll it out from there. But they got 1.5.
Yeah. They didn't even get to 2.
They didn't even get 2 full seasons. They cut it. Like, what a shitty thing to do. To me, that is like the shittiest thing. It's like if they had just canceled it and then be like, you're not getting a 3rd season. It's okay, fine. Well, we at least have 13 episodes to work with to wrap this up in a meaningful way. And for children's programming, you can do a lot in 13 episodes.
Especially if they're divided into 11-minute chunks.
Yeah, and if you really buckle down and say, well, okay, we only have 13 episodes to tell this story, so let's sit down and cut anything that isn't plot relevant, you know, take any standalone episode and just chuck it. It's like, this would have been a fun, jokey joke. Maybe keep 1 or 2. Yeah, but otherwise, you know, anything that isn't important, get rid of it so we can tell, like, the full story in a meaningful way. And so when we come back from our half-season break, we'll have a whole little compact story that tells everything the way we want it to, and we can wrap it up and then do our movie and have a full 2 seasons and a movie run. And it'll be short, but it'll be meaningful. And, you know, Gravity Falls is short. I think it's only 2 seasons, 3 seasons.
I think 3. Yeah.
It's like Gravity Falls is short, but they did a great job with Gravity Falls. And it's like
because that got to end where it wanted to.
It got to end the way it wanted to. Alex Hirsch wanted it to end at 3 seasons. Like, he planned for it.
It's the exact same thing. Rise went through the exact same thing that Invader Zim went through. Which was, here is this great new dynamic series. You know what? Invader Zim is a series that has really good fight scenes.
Yeah, it does. And an incredible color palette and art direction.
It's this new dynamic thing that is unlike anything else currently airing. It has a huge cult following. Wildly popular, artistic and fresh and creative. It gets canceled after 1.5 seasons and then gets a movie on Netflix.
Maybe the movie will wrap things up like Invader Zim's movie.
There was that tweet from one of the staff of Rise that was like, hypothetically, if we got picked up, would you guys be okay with declaring the 4-part finale non-canon and just picking up where we wanted to? And the answer is yes.
The answer is yes, but I also think, I don't know, part of me is just like, no, just take what you did and roll with it. You know, but at the same time, I get that they probably wanted to do more with Shredder. They probably wanted to do that, and they probably wanted to build up the Casey reveal and do more with Karai. And I mean, I guess there's nothing really. It's just like, it would be harder to retroactively do that. Right. It's I guess with the Casey thing, you can just roll with it. Be like, okay, well, we introduced Casey, and now she's gonna show up and start being a thing again.
Yeah.
I guess Shredder, you could be like, the Krang brought him back. It's fine. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
You know, the Karai thing is harder. The killing off Karai. I guess you just have her pester April more often, which actually would be kind of funny.
I think if I were to like pick up where this was, I would just say Karai because you know, they set it up as the Hamato line is always with them, right? They mastered their ninpo, and so there really isn't anything stopping them from just calling Karai forward whenever they want.
Yeah, she's just a Force ghost at this point who just kind of shows up every now and then.
And you know that the spirits are aware of what's going on because Splinter's mom starts the hot soup chant.
Yeah, exactly.
So she knows what her son's been up to.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is another moment that brought me to tears.
Oh, it was so good. It was good. I mean, you know, they did such a good job again with the limited amount of time.
To quote Donnie, the approval of parental figure I've always wanted.
Yeah. It's just like, man, we could have had it all. Maybe we'll get it. Personally, I would not retcon the last 4 episodes because I think they are fine. I mean, they're fast, but they're fine. I would just rather them take like this weird status quo they've established and just roll with it and just be like, okay, yeah, well, Casey's running around and Karai is a Force ghost and Splinter is dead. Not Splinter, the other one, Shredder. Hey, why is your mentor figure and your main villain both have an S name? Because that fucks me up. I always want to call them one or the other.
I think that's like the whole thing is that they're supposed to kind of sound similar because they're parallels.
Right. That makes sense. Splinter, Shredder. Yeah.
A splinter is a shred of wood.
Of wood. Yeah, alright, that tracks. But still, I would just be like, oh man, Shredder is dead. Psych! And then, bring him back at the end of season 3.
You could even just bring a new Shredder in, because the whole thing is that the Krang gave him the armor.
Right. And this time, just let him stay a crazy rampaging monster.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's scary. I like a good scary villain in my cartoons.
And also do more with the mutants, because, oh my god, we didn't even talk about them, but I fucking love Hypno and Warren and...
Oh god,
and
there's so much to talk about.
So, here's the other big difference between 2012 and Rise, which is whenever a character in 2012 gets mutated, they're like, oh my god, what have you done to me? I'm this hideous beast. Woe is me. Whereas everyone who gets mutated in Rise is like, I'm gonna do so many crimes now.
Oh my god.
This is great. I'm loving this.
Especially Meat Sweats. God love Meat Sweats. He's probably, of all like the mutant villains, I think he's my favorite. Just because he's just so funny and his facial expressions are so good.
Him.
And
everything
about him is just really funny.
I wish he and Splinter had stayed friends.
Yeah.
That would have, but he still stayed an enemy to the Turtles.
Yeah.
I love that Hypno kind of got on their side in the last episode.
Oh, the whole brotherly love joke where he's just like, "Aw, it's so good. It's great. It's because they helped rescue his roommate. Oh my god, they were roommates.
It's that and the bit in the one episode where he's like, "What happened to you? Did some crazy doctor man cut you up and then sew you back together?"
Yeah. Oh my god. It's just like, man, it's just so good. It's such a bummer. You bastard. I blame you. You've saddled me with this sadness. This is your fault.
There's just so much like good, fun stuff to do. And I love that like a lot of the minor villains, like in 2012, like they all kind of are on like aligned to one side or another.
Right.
Like they're with the Purple Dragons, or they're with Shredder's team, or they're kind of their own thing.
Wait, are the Purple Dragons just a thing from 2012?
Well, they're a recurring villain. In 2012, they're like a gang of thugs, and I guess yeah, the Purple Dragons are another thing. But like, it's not those characters. It's just like the gang, the Purple Dragons, show up. And stuff.
Well, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're like
these cool hacker kids.
Yeah, they're just some weird tech guys.
Oh, I like the shitty hacker kids.
I do too. They're great, but I love that like the mutants in Rise are just like, they don't really have any direct beef with the Turtles themselves.
They just kind of want to do crime, and like the Turtles keep stopping them. And
in some cases, the Turtles like them. Like Mikey has his whole hero worship of Meat Sweats, and Raph is big on Ghost Bear.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, okay. And it's just kind of like, well, we have to fight you now, even though you're cool. I love Mikey. That whole episode with Mikey. I love Todd. Todd's the best. Super Saiyan Todd made me flip my shit.
When he's forging their new weapons.
And he's just so jacked.
And he wipes the sweat off with a puppy.
Yeah. I always think it's funny that, like, so Mikey and Donnie go through all of this trouble building like a whole puppy park for Todd in order to get the Jupiter Gym, the van, and it's like, you guys just built a whole park. Just build a van. You guys just built all this shit. Go build a van. You can make your own. You don't have to deal with the Mantis guy.
That's one of those things where you think about it too hard, and you're like, where do they get if they have the resources to get all that equipment? Why don't they just?
How is Todd 2 years behind on his RV payment, but he has all these resources lying around to build like a puppy park?
That's one of those things where the writers in the room were like, they asked that exact question. And they realized it's better if we just ignore it.
Just roll with it. Don't think about it. It's fine.
This will be funnier if the audience asks the same question.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't worry about it, as they say. Yeah. There's so many just I like that so many people get like mutated and then also just kind of roll with it. They're just like, well, this is my life now. Yeah. I'm still going to run a puppy park or be a repo man. Repo mantis.
They accept all of the names that the Turtles give them.
Yeah. Meat Sweats, sure.
He has a name. He wasn't a pig that turned into a chef. He was a famous celebrity.
I like the recurring background character of Guy Fieri. He keeps popping up every now and then. There's just so many good, like, recurring jokes. My favorite being this whole situation.
I love the drill. The drill is my favorite running gag.
Yeah, because the drill has an excellent payoff.
There's the bit in the Pizza Week episode where they use the drill to enter the scene, and then Donnie demolishes it because it would be too easy to use the drill in combat.
Right. Yeah. It's great.
Not even in like a I'm overconfident way, just like, no, for the sake of this scene, it would be
for the sake of the gag.
Yeah, it would be too easy for us to win with this drill, so we can't do that. We have to have an actual fight.
You can't just use the drill. And then the drill pays off in, like, the best way, and it's like, oh, great, okay, I'm so glad. See, the thing is that I will say, part of what sold me on, like, being like, all right, fine, I'll watch Rise, is that I did see the final fight. Like, I just watched the last fight of Rise. So I knew the drill was going to pay off. But, like, I didn't think that they were going to... Oh, I guess I should say, I didn't think that the drill was a running joke. Like, when I started the show,
right.
I was like, I didn't know that the drill was a running joke. I was like, oh, it's a drill. I, too, love Gurren Lagann. And then I watched the first episode, and they mentioned the drill in the first episode, and I was like, oh. And then they keep referencing the drill, and I was like, this is the best joke ever. Sometimes it's good to know the payoff, because you can enjoy the setup even more.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go. I mean, we've been at it for an hour and 30 minutes, but before we go, we have not spoken directly. I love my turtley boys!
Oh, the characters themselves, the four boys are so good. I love their whole dynamic in this. Again,
it's the best.
As a long-standing fan of them, as someone, it's so refreshing to see them get different roles for once.
Yeah.
To see, and one of the things that, like, turned people off, like, immediately was that, oh, Raph's the leader in this one.
Right.
And it's one of those things where, again, like, seeing how Splinter develops and how it's not really character development, it's just that you're getting the fuller picture of his dynamic with the boys. Mm-hmm. With Raph and Leo kind of trading roles, as in, the leader versus the muscle type thing, in a way, you still see a lot of tactical behavior and a lot of leadership skills out of Leo.
Right.
And Raph isn't so much the leader as he is just the big brother, and you're gonna defer to your big brother for advice.
I mean, it's important to know, or to understand, I should say, that, like, the whole premise of this show is that it's technically like a prequel.
Yeah.
It's set before they are, like, the actual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's why it's called Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's before they've kind of settled into their defined roles. So, like, yeah, the crux is that Raph is the leader, and he's not meant to be the leader. He's not suited for it. Mm-hmm. He's not even very happy being the leader.
No, he gets very frustrated with it a lot.
He's frustrated and stressed out, and he doesn't know what to do, and he just wants to smash things. And my poor, dumb, gold-hearted boy cannot handle the pressure, so stop putting it on him. Don't be mean to my boy.
And then you see a lot of that leadership come out of Leo, right? Even early on in, like, the second episode, when they're trying to catch the paper thieves, he's the one who's, like, the guiding, like, encouraging one to get them to keep trying.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, okay. The whole idea is that, again, if they had had more time than you would have had from, like, episode 1 to the end of a hypothetical episode season 4, you would see, like, a gradual transition from Leo the smartass to Leo the leader character. That was the whole idea.
It's also really cathartic to see Leo not burdened by leadership for once.
Yeah!
That poor dude has always been, he's the guy in charge.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what is his personality? He's in charge.
He's in charge. That's it. And it's fun to have him be like the wisecracking guy with the teleport sword instead, who, kind of has to rein in Raph's worst instincts. And so you have all these, you have way more friction and character dynamics rubbing against each other. And it just feels more dynamic. You really get the sense, too, of, hey, these guys are, for real brothers. They have so many, good little, just teeny tiny background moments of being idiot brothers that sells them on it so well.
The bit where Mikey wants to go off on his own and do his own first solo mission, and they put it to a vote, and Donnie just says, whatever Leo says. And when Mikey hugs him, he just gets one of the robot arms to pat him on the head.
There's the bit where Donnie saves Mikey from falling off the hotel, and he catches him on the hover bike, and I just love it. It would be so easy to just show, Donnie saving Mikey and then cut to the next action scene. But they take the 2 seconds to, show, Mikey, or Donnie patting Mikey on the head.
Yeah.
All right, I got you, little bro. And it's yeah, those moments are important. It sells, because again, the show kind of lives and dies on selling you on the idea that this is, a family who loves each other. So you have to work really, really hard to make sure your audience buys into that. And by the end of it, you totally do.
And they goof off and they get competitive and stuff. But it's it's always done in jest. And there's never I learned a real lesson about being nice to my brother.
Right.
It's never like that. It's never you need to trust your teammates more. Mm-hmm. It's just, they just sometimes get in fights and tease each other.
Yeah.
And there's no need to learn a lesson, because that's just how brothers are.
Yeah, that's just what siblings are. My God, I've got 2 younger brothers, and it's yeah, we fight. And I mean, sometimes we fight in a big way. We have big blow-up fights where we don't talk for a while, and we get mad at each other. And when we were younger, we would have actual, tear each other's hair out fist fights. But eventually, you get over it, and you still love your idiot brothers at the end of the day. Yeah. And it's it's really important to sell your audience on the authenticity of that bond. And Rise does extremely well.
There's so many moments where it's 3 of them cheering on the 4th.
Yes!
And that's what's really, really important to me.
Oh, yeah.
Unabashedly about it.
Yeah, there's no, shame or embarrassment about it. They just, they want their brother to succeed. They think he's cool. It doesn't matter which brother it is. They think he's cool, and they want him to do well. And, it's oh, yeah, that's just family love.
There's the bit in the basketball episode where Leo has a very hard time saying he was a bad brother.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's just
Ben Schwartz does such a good job of almost vomiting in that scene.
All of the voice actors are so good too. Every single one of them just does such a good job. There's never any hesitation to go all in with those emotional moments, even if they are occasionally undercut. There's never any sense of being uncomfortable with the material. The
amount of screaming, the amount of clear improv that goes on.
Yeah, absolutely.
They all do such an amazing job of it. I think Donnie is definitely the standout.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely does the most. The bit in the layer games where he starts crying. And it's just it's the best.
I think that episode is probably the funniest episode.
I think so too. I think
I was toward the end of it when they show Splinter laughing and the subtitle under him is just "What have you done, old man?" Something in that just made me break, and I was just cry laughing.
One of the subtitles he gets his world's worst dad.
Yeah. And it's like after that point, I was in tears the entire episode. I could not stop laughing. It owns. Yeah, the comedy is so on point, and the actors and you know,
it's
all the writing for the brothers is so good.
The voice acting is so good to the point where this is the kind of thing that wouldn't work if it was like a comic book, you know?
Right. Yeah.
The acting itself is so important to the dialogue.
Right.
Like, how do you transcribe Donnie's little whimpering cry? Like, you can't.
You can't. It just doesn't work. It has to be like a cartoon. And I think the other thing also, by the way, that's kind of like, I probably will end up watching 2012 just out of curiosity, but man, going from like cool 2D animation back to CGI, back when we were in like the dark age of everything was a CG cartoon. It's
rough. It is. 2012 is a series that it still looks pretty good.
Right.
But it's a serial cartoon that got 5 seasons on a Nickelodeon budget.
Right.
It's not the best.
Nope.
There's a lot of... So we talked about how there's a lot of environmental stuff going on in the combat scenes.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of that in Rise. It's a lot of warehouse fights. Or 2012, it's a lot of warehouse fights.
Right.
It's a lot of stuff at night because we don't want to have people walking around in the street.
Sure.
Because that's another model we have to create.
Right. Yeah, it's just like
It's the same reason that Transformers Prime was set in a small town in the desert, is so they don't have to show a lot of people.
Right. Exactly. It's just like that was such a dark age. Like the 2010 to 20. Let's open that window up a little bit more. 2007 to about 2012 was such like a dark age for animation because it was all, and I mean, we still have to deal with a lot of CGI cartoons. Like those are still a thing because they're extremely cheap to produce.
And it looked good as like it was a revolutionary new thing, but it hasn't aged well.
It never ages well. It always looks bad after. I mean, like you said, 2012 still holds up, but it's just not as good. And it just doesn't. And now we're in such like a golden age of 2D animation again. We're back in it in a big way. It's really hard to go back to like that shitty point in time where everything was being CGI. And like I don't have a problem with CGI. Like, obviously, one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years is Spider-Verse, which is a CGI movie.
That's the thing. Okay, so 2012
I would trade a leg for a Rise movie that looks like Spider-Verse, just to throw that out there.
Like, 2012 is not, it doesn't look bad. It's not like it's not like we're fucking Reboot. Or Beast Wars level, right? It still looks pretty good. It's just that, you're not. It hinders it because you can't. They didn't have the ability to do the dynamic kind of stuff that you get when you just do 2D,
right?
And they didn't know at the time that Rise was going to come out and blow everything away.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's part of the reason why people still say it holds up, is that like when you if it's the thing of like, if you grew up with this one, obviously it's the best one,
right?
So you get that, and it doesn't have a distinction, like a distinctive art style to it like Spider-Verse does.
Right, yeah, that's the thing, is that those old shows, whatever,
yeah,
8 years old,
you know what I'm saying? 8 is still a long time, but whatever.
Oh, fuck it. But, those shows from, like, the second era of CG cartoons is what you could kind of reliably call it. Your first is late 90s to mid 2000s. And second which is like, it includes your Beast Wars and your reboots.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get into the second generation where things look better, but they don't really have like they look good, the texture quality is good, the models look fine, and everything is pretty smooth, but they don't really have a distinct style. Like, it's just competently made CGI TV show, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's just, like, it looks fine, but it has there's nothing really terribly stand out about the way it looks either. And in that way, it's a huge downgrade from bright colors and flashy visuals and
from these incredible fight scenes that are just jaw-dropping in the quality of them, and
with really, and I mean, again, to me, what is extremely cool about Rise is it not only has like these tons of fight scenes that are very well done, but they're willing to go pretty ham with camera angles. Stuff that would be better in CG because you can just move a camera. But that's all drawn in a 2D show. You have to draw that. Now, to a degree, I know this is made in like...
Yeah, it's...
I don't know what this is made in. I think Toon? It might be Toon Boom. I don't know exactly. But, you know, and so that you still have, like, models. You can have, like, Motor City. Motor City was made in Flash, if you can fucking believe it. Which, Motor City also deserves better. One day I'll talk about Motor City, and I'll mourn Motor City properly. But, you know, Rise it's still a hand-animated show, and they're willing to do just bonkers shit with camera angles and movements.
Rise is visually going to hold up much longer.
So much better.
Much longer than 2012 does.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And when you think about it, like, someone pointed out that, like, the theme song for Rise is one continuous shot for, like, 35 seconds.
God, I know! And it's so slick the whole time. That animation quality. I hope the movie looks like that.
Yeah.
It's just that extra degree of polish that, you know, cartoon movies always get. Mm-hmm. God, I am so excited for this Rise movie.
Yeah.
Just for the degree of quality that you're going to get. Even, I don't know how long this thing is going to be. Make it 2.5 hours long.
Make it a full-length movie.
Make it up for the fact that I'm not getting an actual third season unless Netflix does something amazing. And even then, though, fucking Netflix, they don't do long seasons. They do little short animation seasons. They'll be like 10 episodes.
I mean, just give it... That's fine. Just give us the last few episodes of season 2.
Just give me something.
Let them finish season 2 like they wanted to.
God. I'll take it. I don't care. I just need something. But, yeah, it's just, man... Oh, God. I knew we were going to talk about this for a while, but we're already almost at the 2-hour mark, huh?
It's just, in essence, it's probably one of the best cartoons I've ever seen. Like,
definitely one of the best American cartoons ever made.
Oh, yeah,
like,
I mean, American.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
but, you know.
It's up there in just, like, every episode I came away with a smile on my face.
Sure. Yeah, I totally get it.
It's just fun and dynamic and creative, and there's so much heart poured into it.
Oh yeah, you get the sense as you watch it that the people making it were having fun making it, you know? And poor Ant Ward. Ant Ward is listed as one of the executive producers of this show. He was an executive producer for 2012. So it's not like a team from who didn't know anything about TMNT came in and did their own show, you know?
Yeah. They were able to make these changes because they knew what they were, you know?
Yeah, they knew the material, and they're like, well, we know this material so well, let's do something different with it, you know?
There's like, beyond just the tons of references to 2012 with, you know, voice acting gags and stuff like that, there's that great shot in the Pizza Pit episode where Donnie talks about alternate dimensions.
Yeah.
And it shows the 2012, the 87 designs.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, by the way, that's totally canon in Ninja Turtles lore. There is a canonical multiverse in Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
There was the Turtles Forever movie in
that's right.
for 2003. The 2003 show that did 87, 2003, and Mirage Comics.
Oh, okay.
And then 2012 did a crossover episode with the 87 cartoon too.
God in heaven, was that that other show was from 2003?
Yeah, the 4Kids one was from 2003.
Oh God, that's so long ago.
I know.
Oh no, we're old.
In a weird way, 2003 feels further away than 87.
Oh God, yeah, because I was like not even a thing in 87, you know? So like I can't even conceptualize 1987. I didn't exist then. But now it's like, oh God, I was alive in 2003. I was young.
Like able to make decisions in 2003.
Oh no. And now I'm an adult. This is horrible. I don't like being reminded of this shit. Kill la Kill came out 7 years ago.
It's not a Gorge episode if we don't have an existential crisis at the end.
You're so right. Can't help it. But to bring us back on topic, Rise is so good. Go watch it. Go really request that Netflix pick up the license. Yeah.
It deserves to have even if it doesn't get picked up, it deserves to have a spot where it can be viewed.
Yeah. So like, I know that, and I used your YouTube to watch Rise. Is there anywhere else to watch it?
I don't know if Nicktoons has an app. I think maybe like on the Apple Store or something like that, or Amazon.
Right.
I just bought the seasons on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I don't know where else you can get it, but I'm sure like there's like
I'm sure you can buy the seasons on Prime. You know, season and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So go watch it on Prime or on YouTube or wherever you can get it. It's incredibly worth it. It's short. It's tragically
it's super
short.
Digestible too. It's all 11-minute episodes. So
yeah, they go by so fast. Mm-hmm. That breakneck pacing just makes these episodes the time just melts away. So I can't recommend it enough, and maybe we can all pray for one more season and a movie.
Yeah, I am looking forward to the movie though. Like I'm so glad they're like, see, it's over, but yeah, we're making a movie. The movie's still happening. Don't worry.
The movie is still happening.
The last line of dialogue in the series is about them making a movie.
I do love, just to like wrap this all up, that actually like one of the last line of dialogue is making Leo the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really funny because it comes out of nowhere. And it's just such a good, like, it feels like a very subtle fuck you to people who complained about Leo not being the leader.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, this doesn't make any sense. And the writer's like, yeah, that's because that's how we wrote it. Leo isn't leader material yet, but we're going to make him that anyways and see how the movie rolls, which will be interesting.
Yeah.
I can't wait. 2021 isn't too far away now.
Yeah, no. It's probably, they're probably working on it right now.
Yay! Save Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You bastard! You inflicted this on me.
Look, I had to do it to someone.
The Gorge is just a story of two friends inflicting each other's things on each other.
Take that.
Watch this, play this, fuck you, suffer with me.
What's this? It's Tales of Vesperia. You're going to play it now.
And then it's gonna eat your life. What's this? It's Final Fantasy VII. Have fun, motherfucker. You want to be sad about this half-finished Turtles show? No? Too bad!
Too bad, look at this fight scene. Don't you want to see more of that?
You do, because you love this shit. And then I watched it. Shit. So now I get to live in the same sad hell as Ben, just desperately hoping for some kind of news at some point. This show just wrapped up, too. Like, the season finale was how long ago?
Like 2 weeks ago, I think.
Oh my god. We're hot off the presses. We're actually topical for once. Look at us. Mm-hmm. I'm proud. So, maybe in the next few weeks we'll get some kind of news, and then I won't have to be so sad.
Yeah.
So. Oh well. Ben, do you have anything else to say about Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles before we wrap it up?
I do not. I got through pretty much everything I wanted to talk about.
You don't have anything else in your notes?
Nope, I cleared them out.
Yay! We did it! All right, let's call it a night.
So that'll do it for us. Thank you, Visitor, for your background music. You can follow me on Twitter at thegorgepodcast. You can follow Sara at radioinactivity. You can email us at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to listen to another cool train heist that just wrapped up, you can listen to Sarah's other podcast.
Hey, you did good that time. I'm in another podcast called Big Gay Nerds, where me and a bunch of cool queer friends get together and play tabletop games. We try out lots of different systems. We have a lot of fun. As Ben said, we just wrapped up our Blades in the Dark block with an extremely cool multi-episode train heist that I think ended extremely well and was probably one of the more fun experiences I've ever had in a tabletop game. You should come check it out and see for yourself. We are at Big Gay Nerds on SoundCloud, and you can find the links to the rest of our social media from there. Thanks.
All right, that'll do it for us. And this one's easy because we already said it.
Fuck Nickelodeon.
Fuck Nickelodeon. All my
homies hate Nickelodeon. Hell yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.